I'm using vintage first season music. Yeah, you remember. Hi, and welcome to Seattle's #1 comic book podcast, the podcast that's dedicated to the first issue of your next favorite comic. And I'm Larry.
I'm James.
Episode 127. This is a follow-up, not a follow-up, part 2.
Part 2 of Watchmen.
Part 2 of Watchmen.
Too big of a comic to fit into one. Even though it's just the same amount of pages we normally do. There's too much in this to do it in one episode. We had to break it into two.
And if you're new to our podcast, each week James and I read and review, and pretty much panel by panel, when they're good like this, discuss a 22-page comic. A first issue 22-page comic. And this one is a good one, and this one is probably going to be a lot like the next couple comics that we do from DC, because DC has just dropped a ton of yummy comics that they had previously did not have released on Comixology Unlimited. And so if you're a Comixology Unlimited subscriber, you got so many yummy... Happy day. So, James, before we dive into that, I really, really want to talk about a movie I saw last week, and I'm probably the last one in all of America to see.
Did you see Aquaman?
No. I saw Spider-Man.
Oh, the animated one?
Yes. Have you seen it?
I have seen it.
Oh,
I really liked it.
I really, really liked it. I've been
Did you like all the different iterations of Spider-Man?
Yeah, so I read that Into the Spider-Verse series as it was coming out in like 2007, so I was familiar with it, but not like they did
They took it to another level.
Job. It's like a great comic book movie that everybody should
see. It's the most comic book of a superhero movie I've seen. Like, I've seen animated superhero movies, like we saw like Killing Joke together or whatnot. But this movie was more like a comic book than anything I've ever seen.
And so well paced story.
Characters
were great. Nobody had like crazy. I mean, there was no lag time. It's a 2-hour movie, but it was
genuinely funny at a lot of different points.
And just cutting edge, because like you have 4 or 5 different styles of art on the same page, and some reality too. There was like a little bit, like, I don't know if you caught that, James, when you like
just a really little bit,
just like where they blended reality into like actual.
Yeah, so usually, and the big fans of our show will know that I'm not a huge fan of the multiverse. I feel like a lot of comics use it as a crutch, but this was the best example of using the multiverse to its potential, of combining all of these different Spider-Man realities. And there's kind of, the bad guy is trying to combine the realities so that he can bring his family back from a different reality so that he can have them. But in the process, he brings different Spider-Men over.
It was super fun. And
so wait, Larry, I gotta ask though, before you go any further on this, are those other Spider-Men real? Like, could I read a comic book that was the pig Spider-Man?
Yes. So in the Spider-Verse, I was reading the main, like we talked about this a couple weeks ago. I was reading the main Spider-Verse book, which was called Into the Spider-Verse, and that was all the characters jumping around. But then you could read a Spider-Gwen book, you could read the Spider-Noir book, and yes, you could read Peter Parker the pig
Peter
book.
Porker. That's awesome.
And and the Miles Morales book. He had his own book. So like money grabs to be had. And I only read, like I said, the main book. I read a little bit of the Spider-Gwen stuff. But now I kind of want to have it all because it was so much fun.
Yeah.
And the soundtrack has been on my Spotify. I've probably listened to it 10 times now. It is so good. So that's my recent and decent. I just didn't want to. I didn't want anybody to think that I forgot about Spider-Man. You want to jump into some Watchmen?
Let's do it. So where we left off, Rorschach. So are we just going to assume the people have listened to our last episode?
Well, let's just give it a quick setup. So basically, what's going on is there's been a murder. And
there was a murder of a masked vigilante. And this is like a crime type comic book of a whodunit nature. And our detective is this also masked vigilante named Rorschach, who has a cool white mask with the ink blotches that move around. And he's a bit of a paranoid character. We don't know how paranoid and whether he's being delusional or how frequently he's being delusional. But he has this idea that there's somebody going around killing all of the masked vigilantes from the past. Because the government made a law that all of the masked vigilantes have to uncover themselves or work for the government. And so this first issue, Rorschach is going around and warning all of his old friends that there might be danger.
And he's also at the same time trying to get down to the whodunit of the whodunit.
Exactly.
And so we kind of jump right into that scene after Rorschach leaves one of these guys, kind of feeling disheveled, and says, "Well, I'll get to the bottom of this myself." And there's a great
Night Owl was the guy.
Yeah. So basically, it's reading this first issue. It's a not necessarily putting the band back together, but we meet the band.
Yeah. So in quite a few different scenes, we see like old photographs of this superhero team type thing. And we really don't even know if any of these masked people have superpowers. We just, like, as far as we can tell, they're just normal people who feel the need to step up. And actually, when we talk to Night Owl, he's the second Night Owl, he's in conversation with the older version of Night Owl, kind of like how Robin, there's different iterations of Robin in Batman and Robin. And at the end of this issue, there's a really cool, like, excerpt of Night Owl wrote a novel. And it gives a lot of backstory into it. And usually I like my comic books to be pretty clean, just pure comic books, but I really enjoyed reading the novel stuff at the end.
I didn't read it this time, but I read it in the past, so I you'll have to gloss or give me the broad strokes there, because I do remember. So it's an excerpt from a tell-all book written by the original Night Owl, and this sort of takes place in, what do you think, like the late 70s? Because
yeah, that's what I was going to say.
These characters worked from the 40s to the 60s. They disbanded.
Oh, no, it takes place in 85.
Oh, in 85. Oh, right.
When you look at Rorschach's journal.
Yeah. So they disbanded in the late 60s.
Late 70s.
In late 70s.
I think it was like 77 or something.
Okay, so that's when the Don't Be a Superhero act happened. And Rorschach is chasing down leads, and Rorschach is so gritty. He's so gritty. He's got the best look, too. I think he's got the best look.
Yeah, he's got a great, like, trench coat, and he's always, like, hanging out on the rooftops and those kinds of things, and in the bad parts of town. Except
when he goes to do some investigative work, and he's got a unique style.
Mm-hmm. And we get right into his unique style on this page right here. So he goes into a bar that reeks of fornication and bad consciousness. Help me out, Larry.
Consciousness. Close enough, right?
Consciences.
But he's got a reputation for please don't kill anybody. The bartender is sweating already.
He's like wanted for murder. But Larry, one of my favorite panels is this panel where he walks into the bar and you see all of the guy. Like one guy has an eye patch and he has like an olive on a stick in his mouth, and the guy with the earring and like just a tuft of hair in the front, and they got like a lady in like way too nice of a dress.
Yeah, it is a scene.
There's a lady with like a pipe in her mouth that looks like nothing I've ever seen before.
Yeah,
it's a great panel.
Yeah, it's great. I'm gonna blow that up because it is a good.
But
panel.
so I definitely recommend reading this. I mean, you got to be a fan of a hard copy, but if you read it on Comixology, which is why we're doing this, because it's free for the Comixology subscribers, I definitely recommend reading it panel by panel, which I don't usually, but there's just too much detail in here to skip anything.
Yeah, to skip anything. And the coloring, we didn't talk about the coloring last time. This is a pink and yellow with very dark darks. It looks so good. Oh my God.
Oh, looks like the red light district.
Yeah. So Rorschach gets in there and he immediately turns everybody's heads. I think also there's a lot of comments about his body odor.
Oh yeah.
So I'm trying to just like,
yeah. So one of the guys in the bar is like, you hear that? He must have, if he has friends, he must have changed his deodorant. And so the guy who said that with Rorschach over his shoulder didn't realize Rorschach heard him. And when he goes up to go to the bathroom, Rorschach grabs his pinky, I guess, and breaks it.
And he continues breaking fingers until he gets the answers that he wants. Which is so dumb, right?
It doesn't seem like, well, first of all, how would what are the chances that the person who knows who killed, so he says, I've just broken this gentleman's little finger. After he breaks the finger, he like addresses the bar. I've just broken this gentleman's finger. Who killed Edward Blake? And first of all, if you knew, why would you care about this guy whose finger's getting broken? And second of all, what are the chances you even know? But the crowd starts kind of like pleading with him, like, leave this guy alone.
Yeah, it is a cool scene. And Rorschach has plenty of things to say about these people as he finds this interview process fruitless and leaves the bar.
Those human cockroaches discussing their heroin and child pornography. Yeah. So he just always assumes the worst of everybody. He's definitely a paranoid character, which is what I love about him.
Yeah, he is definitely paranoid. And totally righteous. And then he goes to visit.
Well, I don't know about. Well, yeah, I guess righteous is kind of a good word.
Yeah, and then I think so. Yeah, he's just so like.
He's trying to do the right thing.
Trying to do the right thing.
No matter how small, and no matter if he does the wrong thing to get the right thing done.
Yeah, and then he goes to visit more of the.
Another old masky.
Another old masky, Ozymandias.
Ozymandias.
Yes, and this guy is in an ivory tower.
He's made a lot of money.
He's made a lot of money off of being a mask, we assume, because he's got like superhero dolls of himself all over the place.
Rorschach's playing
with one.
It seems like he's made way more money than you could make selling off action figures. He's supposed to be the world's, so it starts off saying, you're supposed to be the world's smartest man. So I'm assuming like he just has businesses and like he's made good investments. But maybe he started off with like he's not afraid to sell out.
No. I guess I didn't read too much into his vast fortune. I just assumed he was a rich guy. Like, I guess But, when you start thinking about...
Cashed in on his reputation
and was sponsored and, I don't know. and maybe worked for the government, because